What's going on, you guys? Hope you're all well. Today I'm going to be doing a bit more of a how-to episode. I haven't actually done this yet. Actually, if you've been watching any former episodes, you would have seen I've been working on my Austin A30, doing a variety of different techniques to try and restore my Austin. But obviously, of course, a large portion of that has been having to use a welder because there's so much work to be done on this car. It would be impossible to do without taking my hand to a bit of MIG welding. Originally, I did say that I wouldn't do any sort of how-tos about how to MIG weld, just purely because I feel as if I've not been doing it long enough. On the other hand, at the same time, I found a lot of the information when I was looking into how to MIG weld kind of overwhelming, and I thought maybe actually for you guys it might be kind of helpful, especially if you're going to pick up a MIG welder for the first time, to sort of follow some of the approaches that I've been doing to keep everything nice and simple, and obviously getting a good result out of it as well. So today I'm going to be trying to fix a little part of the arch over there. I'll show you that in a minute, and it's going to require using there it is, some thin mild steel, just like this. So yeah, we are going to be using a MIG welder to do that, and I'm going to show you how I cut it out, how I clean it up, and all the safety tricks and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and keep this to be almost like a top 5 rules to MIG welding, if you like. So at least you can keep them to each category. Hope you enjoy this, and let's get cracking. Rule number 1, or step number 1, and I know you guys, you knew this was coming. It's safety. Now, don't click off straight away. Come on, you've got to work safe, haven't you? Especially with something as dangerous as one of these, you can really hurt yourself if you're not careful. So the main rule, really, of course, is to have a good helmet or mask. You can get the ones that you hold, cheap and basic. You know, if it does the job. It sounds like a bit of a faff to me. I splashed out a little bit and got myself quite a nice MIG welding mask. Here you go, I'll wear it for you, look. But they're so good, you can actually tune them to come down. There you go, look. It's pretty cool. Not only is this a MIG welding mask, the other thing that I love about this one, it's got like a light sensitivity to it, and I'll actually dial this so that I can see what I'm working on quite well, and as soon as I start the arc with the weld, of course, it goes nice and black for me. So yeah, really cool bit of kit is the helmet, and this, you know, if you ask me, it's an absolute must. You should not be looking at a bare naked weld. I think you can get something called arc eye, which sounds incredibly painful. Basically, it burns your eye in various ways. I'm not going to go into the science of what that is because it might bore you, but I can assure you it'll be very, very painful. So next up is a decent pair of gloves, and now these really wouldn't be any good. Anything that can melt too easy, no good. You need something like thick leather, you know, something that's going to keep, especially your forearms, nice and safe. Okay, good pair of gloves. I think these were about £10. They're not overly expensive, and of course we don't want nasty burns on us. So definitely need a pair of gloves. Now the last one, I don't actually have one, and as my shirt will show you, I don't know if the camera's picking it up that well. I'm sure it will see these parts here. I should really be wearing a leather jacket, or like a suede sort of jacket that you can buy from the MIG welding shops that stops the sparks. You can get full overalls that have this heat protection on. I do need to get one, as you can see. You know, this is quite dangerous to be doing it with this, but you know, at the very least, try and wear something that's going to stop you having any kind of burns on you, you know. But yeah, don't ruin your favorite jacket just like I have. More safety. Remember, when we're welding, sparks are flying all over the place. It is potentially, obviously, a fire hazard. If you're anything like me, I've got all kinds of flammable things in my garage. You know, this old petrol cans. You look at, you know, some things that could potentially catch on fire. So that's why I have a cupboard like this that keeps anything that could set on fire away. You know, I can shut that up, and I'm not worried about, obviously, sparks or angle grinding sparks catching fire to anything. Or at least it's made, you know, some difference to the safety where you're working. Get down on the floor with this, because I think it's going to be the only way to show you, because it's remarkably heavy for what it is. Oh, that's right. So, rule number 2, tip number 2 from using a MIG welder, of course, we need to get our blend correct. And what do I mean by blend? Okay, we should have 2 dials. Now, my one doesn't have this. Usually, most MIG welders will have a dial here for your wire speed, and a dial here for the amount of volts or how much input in terms of electricity you're actually putting in to the welder. Mine comes with a variety of switches, which is, I have to say, is quite complicated for me. I personally would prefer the dial because you can really get that sweet spot, okay? And I'm going to show you a piece of metal from when I first started this, and which will show you how I've sort of managed to tune it in to the right place, okay? But how does it work? We have a crocodile clip here, yeah? This is your earthing wire, okay? So whatever you're welding onto, anything you're welding, this will need to be connected to the metal that you're working on. And ideally, as close as possible, if you're working, for instance, on the front of the car, I have been told not to put it at the back of the car, for instance. I think it is better, the sort of closer you can get to where you're working. I think that's the rule. Again, that's just what I've been told by other people that weld and by the welding shop. So hopefully that's true. And then we have our trigger. Okay, so when we pull this trigger, this wire is fed through the nose like this. And this is obviously, of course, where we are going to be sending this metal onto the sheet work to create our weld. Now, some things that I will tell you about these. Mine specifically has a lazy trigger, so make sure you get a good pull on there so it obviously comes through properly. But underneath here, we have, so I've just taken the hood. This is the part that goes over the top there, just to keep everything tidy. But underneath this, we have this little bit of copper there. Now, when I first got my MIG welder, it came with some metal that was actually wrong for the type of metal that I was welding on. So of course I had to go get some new wire on there for welding onto mild steel. Now, something to be aware of, if you've got the same problem, make sure that this little nib here is the correct size for the one that you want. So for instance, this is, I think this is 0.8 mil thick wire. So of course I need one, obviously a nib to fit that. So just a heads up on that, and you'll see the consequence in a minute of trying to use the wrong wire on the wrong type of metal. It was just, sparks were just flying all over the place, and it was quite obvious that I was using the wrong metal. Which brings me to the next point. In here, if I take off, which side is it? We have, oh crikey me, I've gone through a lot of this recently. I have to get some new wire in this. Right, hopefully you can see this. This is where your wire comes through. So when you put your wire on, you just take this off, and then you take this part off and feed your wire through and then clamp it back down. It does take a little bit of fine tuning, because if any of this is too tight, it won't pull through very well, and of course it won't come through the end of your trigger. So be patient. Remember, that bit unscrews first, put your new reel on, back on, and then like I said, this part not too tight, and it should feed through quite nicely. Now that this is hopefully hooked onto some metal on the car or whatever you're welding to, we are now at a point where we can talk about the gas or gasless part. Now, I had somebody that actually commented on my channel saying, do I use gas or gasless MIG welder? Well, the answer is I use both. Unfortunately, at the moment, I've been forced to use no gas because I've just run out of MIG welding gas on the back there. Now, I thought when originally I got this machine that was a really complex thing to do. It really wasn't. I just simply went to my my local welding shop. They're really helpful, and I think they sort of sell it as like hobbyist gas. It's a mix of CO2 and argon. It's pretty mixed. You rent the bottle and you have to take it back occasionally, or if you want to do it on a smaller league, I think you can just get the little small bottles of gas. But of course, if you're working like me, a big project, you'll probably be burning through those quite often. So yeah, it might be worth getting a big old bottle like this if you're doing some serious stuff. In my opinion, what's better depends on what you're doing. I tend to find if I'm doing long beads on quite thick steel, that the gas is an absolute must. Otherwise it gets really messy. But if I'm doing just simple tacking work, the gasless option works really quite nicely on this. And overall, I mean, I think I paid £200 on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't even buy this thing brand new, and it seems to do an absolutely brilliant job. All the welds I've done seem to be going quite well, and the more and more you use it, the easier it gets. Little thing I just wanted to add to the gas part, you'll probably notice that I've got this trolley for it. Now, one of the things that you will be advised if you do go buy a bottle of gas is to make sure it's strapped in somehow. The last thing you want is a bottle tipping over and bursting, because yeah, they probably could fly like a missile somewhere. So that's quite a nice feature. This was actually made by the last guy that had it. He's done quite a nice job actually. It's very helpful for getting around the garage. If you are anything like me and you like to use the gas option because you're doing some quite hefty work, I will give you a quick brief overview of the settings on here. Obviously it needs to be turned on for the main gas to be sent through to the machine. I've been advised for this to sit, where are we, at about 12 when I use it. I've heard other people say they use a bit more, but for what I've done, everything seems to be running quite nicely on 12. I don't know if I'm pointing to the right place, about there. And as you can see, it's CO2 and argon mix, and this here will just tell you how much is in the actual canister itself. You know, of course, unless it's empty, you don't have to worry about this too much, but as you can see, mine is completely empty. So I'm afraid today's welding is going to be quite simple. It's going to be literally a couple of little tacks on the arch, but it should be enough to show you how this works. So all the time that we're on the topic of blending obviously the machine to work nicely before you start welding, so this is actually one of the best pieces of metal that I have for sort of educating people on this matter. So if we just start down the end here, when I first brought the machine, wow, let me just zoom in. Okay, well, when we first brought the machine, you know, I set everything up and tried to have a go at using it. Now, as I said, this is the consequence of having the wrong metal. As you can see, it just doesn't work. It's gone everywhere, isn't it? Yeah, really, really bad. Big mess. You'll never weld anything with it. So yeah, I had to go off and get the right metal. Duh. Yeah. Over here, we started to get somewhere. So again, if we just zoom in down here, here are some of the sort of early attempts to use the welder, and at the moment you can see it's just blasting through, and there was lots of holes being created everywhere. And what the problem was it was too much power being put in. So this is what I was saying about blending those two dials in. Yeah, so you've got your wire speed and you've got your voltage. Now here, obviously I've got enough wire coming through, but the power was so much it just surged straight through this thin metal, because it is thin. It's only 0.8. Yeah, it went straight through. Too much. Yeah, so what we did, we just dialed it back until we started getting things like this. It's starting to get slightly better. And then as you can see here, the welder really has started to work quite nicely. The other thing to play around with, again, all part of that blending is obviously, of course, the gas. Yeah, now I didn't know this originally. My trigger, as I said earlier, is a bit lazy. Obviously, if I wanted to, I could probably upgrade. I kind of got used to that character of this now, and whenever I'm welding with it, I just make sure I give it a good firm pull, and I've got this cut back, which is another topic as well. I'm going to mention that a few times later on. It's really good to have a pair of snips to keep this cut down, because yeah, we don't want a blob at the end of this, because you won't get that initial nice tack if you don't do that. But we'll come back and I'll show you that later. So as we've moved along here, we've got the gas sort of just right, the amount of wire coming through just right, and it's all started to look a bit better. I think these were actually my friend's attempts. As you can see here, these are some of my early attempts. Let me just zoom in. Absolutely shocking. You can tell I'd never used a machine before. I've actually got a little version here. I don't know how well you can see that. Now, if I just flip this over, you'll see this is my first ever attempt at tacking in a piece of metal, you know, before obviously having a go on the car, which is a good shout actually. If you're a MIG welder for the first time, before you start doing this, just get yourself a bit of practice sheet and have a go, you know, before you start blasting holes in your own car and things. But as you can see, this has actually come out quite nice. All I've done is I've tacked it in the corners and then shaved it down afterwards. And as you can see, you know, if I was to paint over that, it's not going anywhere. It's fully formed, and that's not now one full piece of metal. And that is essentially what we're trying to get out of this tutorial, is to get you guys to be able to weld a nice little square in, or whatever shape you're using, nicely, and put it in. So let's move along. to step number 3. So we're on to rule number 3, or tip number 3. Now, if I'm being really honest with you, this was one of those things that when someone gave me the masterclass on how to use the MIG welder for the first time, don't get me wrong, I did take it kind of seriously. I knew it was kind of important, but I didn't really realise just how important. And since I've been getting deeper and deeper into obviously using it, the more time I spend cleaning up everything that I do, the better result I seem to be getting. And I mean cleaning up in a multitude of ways, actually. So let's first start with getting the metal that you're working on clean. Okay, so if you have, for instance, you know, a part of a car that you're welding onto might have rust, could have paint. You want to get it right back to good clean metal. And I am actually going to show you a clip in a minute of me using this specific one. I don't know if you can see this. This is one I've been using recently. I've sort of worn it out a bit actually, but this is actually a paint stripping wheel, and it's so good at getting metal back to bare metal, like perfect, ready for it. Of course, you could use angle grinding disc, just a regular one like this. That would work. You've got all various different methods of getting your metal cleaned up, but super important to have that nice and clean, because you don't really want your MIG welder catching fire to any paint or any body filler, because it would just cause a nuisance and you won't get a nice weld on there. So yeah, clean your metal back. Now, once you've got your metal nice and clean, this is the last thing. Now, we had a guy that lived next door, he used to bang on about this so much. I'll be interested to see in the comments if any of you guys are out there that are good at welding, do this as well. But ever since he's told me about it, I do it every time now. And this is methylated spirit. Just before I weld, I go on there with a little rag and really clean everything up. And I have to say, once it really does form a nice weld. I don't know if that is really helping or not, but I certainly feel like it does. So yeah, extra clean, so your weld's going to be spot on. So rule number 4, power. Okay, so yeah, I think it's definitely worth a mention. As you can see here, this is a multi-core plug. This isn't actually dangerous at the moment. As you can see, I have a lot of things plugged into it, but nothing that's drawing that much current. Whereas a MIG welder, I would imagine, is taking quite a lot. And we really, to get that good weld, we want it to be working really kind of as good as it can. So I can't imagine this would be a good thing to plug your MIG welder in amongst a big multitude of things like this. Tend to go on with the rule of keeping as short a distance as possible from the mains plugs that you use. I even use a surge protector just because I'm that kind of safe kind of guy. And I just use the one single plug that runs from the power to my machine. If you can plug directly into the wall, I would imagine that's probably even better. As you can see, I'm in my garage and they didn't actually give me any power in here. So I have a special bit of decent cable that I run from there. It's not very long, it's probably about 2 or 3 meters long, that runs into another cupboard, but I only use that one cable. There's not several cables linked to it, and it's surge protected, so that should definitely help you get a good result. With power, as you can see, if we were going to be working on this piece of metal, we would need to be putting our earthing cable that runs to the machine onto the closest piece of metal. Now obviously if you're welding a piece to the car, obviously this needs to be onto the car and you'll be putting your piece in somewhere. Now the biggest tip I'll give you with this, power related, yeah, is to make sure that this is clamped to something good metal, yeah. So you might have to buff up an area or clean it up, or in some cases I'll see them sort of waggle this to sort of scratch down to that bare metal. But yeah, you'll need to have a good earth in order for that MIG welder to arc properly. So here we are. Here we have the piece that I want to look at today. As you can see, it's quite ugly, isn't it? And I will definitely need to be cleaning up this edge. It's quite a small piece, but yeah, definitely can't be leaving it like that and just carpeting it over, because I'll get all kind of moisture problem. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to worry about obviously this first part here. Then I'm going to make another additional part that attaches to it here. Doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, as long as it fits in the gap and it doesn't stop anything from closing, like the door and things, I'll be absolutely happy, because of course this is going to have a bit of felt that goes over the top of the arch. Now for getting the shape, and I'd imagine this is sort of the main part, so let's call this part 5, how to obviously get a good shape in it. So the first thing I would suggest to do is try and simplify the shape that you're going to be welding into first, if you can. So at the moment, for me to take obviously the tinfoil that I'm going to show you in a minute and try and form this shape here would be quite difficult because it's quite jagged. So I'm simply going to go get a pair of rasps and just try to see if I can't get this area to look a little bit more squared up. And then we're going to use this piece of tinfoil to get an idea of the shape, or an impression of the shape that needs to go in here. And then we'll go cut that out on the bench and start to fit it in. Compared to what it was, it's a much more simple shape. It has, yeah, it's got a couple of splinters on there, but yeah, I'll need to, that is actually square. Actually, that's a bit of an optical illusion there, because yeah, that's just where some of the paint's flicked off. But yeah, we've effectively got almost like a triangular shape we need to put in. But this is far from ready to weld onto. We need to clean up this edge. So we're going to get an angle grinder and clean it up a bit more. And then we can think about welding onto. About to start using an angle grinder, which yeah, is almost a must-have tool if you're doing welding. Definitely recommend one. I'm just going to be using this regular stone, sort of thick stone one, not a thin blade, because I'm not really cutting as such. I just want to clean up the area. And of course this means I need a pair of glasses on. We don't want things on our eyes. A mask, because obviously it kicks up some nasty fumes, and a good pair of headphones. Now I must admit, I need to get some of the pushing ones, because these are ridiculous. They're massive. Anyway, let's get going. Let's grind her up. As you can see, we're back to bare metal. It's not, well, okay, yeah, it's not the cleanest thing ever, but it will do. And what I've tried to do is get a bit of a chamfer on it as well. So I'll try to angle this down a little bit, so when we put the new piece of metal in there, it will have something to sort of lay into, like a little gully, and that should weld into there quite nicely. And just here, this is a little bit of metal that I've just buffed back to bare metal. It's as close as I can really get to where we're going to work on. And this is going to be for that earth clamp that goes on there. So we get a nice arc on that weld. Because as you can see, it's quite a strange shape, this. And as I said, I'm going to do it in 2 pieces. I'm going to have a piece that runs along and fills this bit in. And I'm going to make a triangular part that fits into there. Now, a couple of ways to do it. I find the easiest way is a piece of tin foil, because as you know, tin foil, you can bend and fold it very easily, and it's quite easy to get an impression out of it. I have seen people use pieces of card before. You can press that in. I don't find it particularly useful. I tend to find I get a lot more accuracy with the tin foil. So yeah, I'm basically going to lay that in there like that, as you can see, and then just push around the edges of where you want it to be, and that should give you a good impression of that shape. And then of course we can just cut that out. Almost looks like a love heart, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not bad. I'll take it to the bench and I'll show you properly. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but as you can see, it's definitely given me a good impression of the shape I want. And obviously, you know, if I need to amend it a little bit, of course I can do, but that is gives me a vague idea of what shape I need to put in there. So yeah, we'll get that cut out and then draw it onto a piece of metal like this, and hopefully it will. So I have just cut that bit of tin foil out. It now looks something a little bit like that. So I think this is the sort of shape that we are going to be wanting to weld in there. Quite small, only a little bit. So we'll take this over to the car, see if it's going to fit, and then if it is, and then we'll come over here and get this bit of metal cut out and see if we can't get it welded. You can see, not bad at all. That's exactly what we're after. That bit's sticking up a bit, but of course when it's a bit of metal it won't do. And of course, you know, we've got rasps and things, we've got grinders. If I need to grind bits back as we go, I'd rather have too much material there than not enough, but that's definitely close enough for me. So let's see if we can get this cut out. I'm going to try not to be wasteful. I'm just going to try and cut this onto the edge there. Now, let's talk about what to use to draw it out. Now, I must admit, I was using markers and stuff, and you can get some remarkably good precision markers and stuff. I tend to find a pencil's pretty good. This is probably the joiner in me, but you don't want anything too like thick. Something like a permanent marker can be quite misleading because, as you know, the area can come out almost like that thick. And of course, we're working to quite a precision level here. We want this piece to be as close to the size of the hole that we're putting in. So yeah, pencil should do the job. Fill it in a little bit so I can see it. There we go. So that's the shape that we want to cut out. And all the time we're actually sewing it, in case I forget to mention it, at the end it will be quite an important thing for me to actually put some paint back over when this is all done. And this is the reason why. This is actually almost a new piece. I mean, I've not had it that long, a few months. And just the air itself and being in this not damp garage, it's quite a nice garage, but yeah, it's enough to make this start rusting. So once we have this well done, you want to get some paint over it straight away. Etch primer is probably the best thing to put on there. The question is, will I be lucky enough to cut it out with the tin snips? Now let's just talk about that for a second. If you were working with thicker metal, then yeah, you might have to use an angle grinding disc. You know, something like thin ones that would probably be what you would use. Now, the only thing I'm going to say to you guys, if you decide to go with an angle grinding disc for cutting shapes out, be careful when you turn. Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have eye protection on. These love to shatter and explode. I think there are some new really good ones out there that claim that they don't do that, but I've certainly seen a few of these burst across the room, so do be careful of these grinding discs. I'm hoping I won't have to use them for this. Hopefully my tin snips are going to be enough to get this piece cut out. So here we go. So there we have it. So this is my first attempt. Doesn't look too bad actually, and the thing is, this metal is so thin, if I need to like mold it a little bit or bend it, it's quite malleable, and I can sort of make up the nice shape that it's going to go into. Let's see how it fits. These yet. Now these are pretty cool. You can get proper ones. These ones were given to me by my good friend Ian. If they'll come off. Now these are magnets. Yeah. So when you lay this piece of material on, you can actually use these to hold them in place whilst you weld them on. You can get them on Amazon. They're quite easy to get hold of. Your DIY store might have them, or you can just use a general magnet. The other thing I would keep away is obviously anything with plastic on. They want to be pure metal ideally. But yeah, definitely very helpful. Otherwise you're trying to hold this on there, and as you can see, as you do that and hold that on there, you know, it's going to get hot. So yeah, ideally a bit of magnet might help. Okay, so it's not exactly Cinderella's shoe, but with a little bit of pressure put down on this, it's certainly close enough. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that's actually fitting quite nicely. So yeah, I just need to get a few nice tacks in there. It is straight. It's not, well, I need to push that in a bit, but it's not protruding. That's the main thing. We don't want it jutting out. So yeah, let's see if we can't get a few first tacks on there finally. Okay, so I have done my absolute best to try and well light this area for you guys. I do apologise if it's not perfect, but I've done what I can. Yeah, annoyingly, I have no more welding to do on the outside of the car. So yeah, we're inside, so the lighting is not as easy as it looks. So we're going to try and get this bit tacked down now. So a couple of principles with this. As we know, it needs to be clean. Yeah, we cleaned up this edge already, so it's all ready to go. We're going to get some methylated spirit quickly, give it a little bit of a clean up. Again, I don't know if that makes a difference, but I feel like it does. So yeah, if you want to try that, try that. And then lastly, we need to obviously get all the mask on and get it all plugged in and wired up, ready to go. So we are pretty much ready to go. I've got my mask ready. We're all connected to the earth now, and the MIG welder is ready to go. Like I said, we're not using gas on this one, but we are doing some simple tacks. Now, for tacking, again, big secret to it, well, I found it helpful, is to cut off the ends. Yeah. So if you've got a bit of wire sticking out like this, give it a trim up. Well, that's what I've been taught anyway, and I must say I get a lovely tack each time. Now with tacking, what does that mean? If you've never heard that before, what that is we're just going to press the trigger nice and firmly and get one tack somewhere so it connects to the metal and then come away. Yeah. Now, obviously, when we start welding, it's thin metal, it's going to get hot, so we need to give it time to cool down. So I would tack one area and then the next time do another area, then do another area, sort of chase it around like that. If it really does start getting too hot, you can use a compressor or compressed air to try and cool it down. Don't know if I'm going to need to do that on this time. I'm going to be taking it quite slow, so I might just do it without it. But if I need to, I've got a compressor over there and we'll plug it in and cool this down. So anyway, we're going to put the mask on and hopefully you get a good shot of this. I've tried to get the camera as much on this as I possibly can, so hopefully it'll give you a good idea of what I'm up to. Let's go. Bit much. I do apologise, the lighting on this is terrible. Hopefully I can get you a close-up of when it's done, and it will be a lot more clearer what I've done. One little tack, that's all you want. So certainly not the masterclass that I was looking for. Yeah, actually this has been quite a nuisance, and I've just run out of MIG welding wire as well. So two disasters there. However, you know, if you are a beginner, it's solid. It's not going anywhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go get a grinding disc and buff it back and just show you guys that even though this isn't like masterful work, which of course it definitely not. I mean, it's no gas, it's gone a bit blobby, but at the end of the day, this has given me a simple idea of what you can achieve. You know, it's not amazing, it just looks a bit messy, but honestly, once it's buffed back and I'll put a bit of paint over there, I'm sure this will be absolutely fine. Let's see how we get on. So I don't know how well you guys can see that. Obviously, I've still got this horrendous hole here. I have actually just run out of MIG welding wire. So yeah, I'll have to do that another time. But I'm going to put some paint over this in a minute, clean it up a little bit. I'm going to put a bit of paint so you can get a better idea of, you know, the patch that's gone in. Now, is this perfect? No, it's not. But if you're anything like me and you're just looking to patch your old girl up or get your car mended and then do the rest of the body filler, you know, this is absolutely fine. It's not going anywhere. It is strong. And obviously, you know, with gas as well, it would have done a much cleaner job, and of course a bit more time put into it. So yeah, obviously when I come to do this again, I'm going to obviously take a bit more time to attach it and do some cleanups here, but hopefully this gives you guys an idea that, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, you can pick up a MIG welder and you can get some relatively good results. So yeah, I'm just going to get this clean up. Let's get a bit of paint on it so you guys can see the end result, and hopefully this has been quite helpful for you. For painting over bare metal, you know, etch primer would be a good shout. I don't actually have any, but I remembered I do hopefully have a little bit remaining inside this this galvanizing spray. Really, you just want something over it until you come back to it again, so it doesn't continue rusting, unless you're completely done with it. You know, this is what this has all been sprayed with. This is the galvanizing spray. Kind of looks like the space station, if you ask me. This is kind of cool. It's not staying that color. It's just to protect the bare metal. had a little bit of a spray. Now, is it a masterpiece compared to some of the welders that you will get on YouTube? No, of course it's not. I'm going to do a bit more work on this because, as you can see, I've got this part here to continue on with. But I just wanted to sort of show you guys me welding a little bit of metal onto the car. It's a shame that I've got no welding gas and I've just run out of wire. However, I just want to show you here. Now, can you spot it? Get a bit of light on it. I bet you can't. Now, would you believe it? In here, I'm going to do my best to try and find some photos and stick them up here for you. In here, I did a patch, just like this, inside. And you can barely see it. Literally, it is gone. I can't believe how amazing of a job I've now managed to do on it. Obviously, you know, body filler went over the top of it just to get that final smooth, but it's nearly invisible. So yeah, just follow those tips, those processes, and you should get a fairly good result. And I'm just going to go around the car now and show you some of the other parts that I've done myself, that I've knocked up in this garage on my own and put in. And again, you know, are they perfect? No, I'm an amateur garage. I'm an amateur spirited amateur. Sorry, that's what I am. And you know, I would like to kind of show you guys what I've managed to achieve with limited knowledge and limited tools, and just the sort of basics in MIG welding, really. And it's quite amazing what you can achieve. Starting with the front end here. Now, this is a part that I'm really quite pleased with. Obviously, it's not done yet. I've got loads of things to obviously still to go on this car. But this front valance, if I can find some photos again, I'll put them up here somewhere. This part here was absolutely horrendous. Yeah, and this is, I did this welding when I had barely just started. Yeah, I'd maybe used it 3 or 4 times before. And if you ask me, all right, if you zoom in, it's not expert level, but with the aid of a bit of body filler as well, I think I really have managed to excel myself as a beginner. I mean, come on. I really hope I managed to find those photos because they were shocking. So yeah, both of this part here was done. There was a little square here that I've had to do. It will still have some finite filler put on there yet. That's going to hopefully help. But yeah, all these parts looking good. This part was welded in. I believe I did some spots on here. And again, you just can't see them. How's that bit? Okay. So yeah, hopefully, if you are new to a MIG welder, that's giving you some confidence as a starter. Have a go. As you can see here, these are some of my next projects. Now, just to give you a bit of comedy here, we have found the cause of the leak on this window. Now, I don't know how well you guys can see this at all. That there, oh God, I don't know if you can see it. That there is tin foil. Someone has used tin foil, I think, to repair the car. So yeah, of course, this is why we seem to be getting a leak on the driver's leg when I'm going downtown. So yeah, I'm going to get these things welded in next time. I will try and do obviously some bigger episodes if you guys enjoyed that, on, you know, more about my MIG welding skills, such as it is. But for now, that's probably a wrap, I think. How's that drying? Yeah, there you go. Again, not perfect. I could buff it back a bit more next time and get that finished. But yeah, at least there's a bit of metal back in there. And yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed that. I'm really pleased because, as I said, this isn't something I'm overly confident about, but I just wanted to show you guys my process with MIG welding. Hopefully that's been of help. If you did enjoy it, give us a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me a lot. And remember to hit the notification bell as well, so that way you know when I've got new episodes come out. Anyway, that's bye for now, and we'll see you next time.